I told you that my house is in Seoul, but it's kind of at the border of Seoul and Gyeonggi province. If you're watching an advertisement on TV, you can actually hear, like for example, the chicken advertisements.
This is Bandi, and she actually started learning English when she was 14. Now, as you can hear, she is fluent and she did really well in her IELTS test. Today, we're going to watch her IELTS test in full, and then I'm going to come back at the end and give you my feedback. Okay, hi.
Hello.
This is obviously a mock test, so I'm not going to ask for your ID or anything like that. Let's start out. What can I call you?
Just call me Bandi.
Bandi? Okay, Bandi. So we're going to start out with part one. Firstly, are you working or are you a student?
I'm working currently.
Okay, what do you do?
I teach English.
Teach English? Wow, great. Okay, so we'll start by talking about your hometown.
Okay.
So what kind of place is your hometown?
What kind of place? I can say it's just a common village where people live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not special.
Okay. What's the most interesting part of your town?
Well, my house is in Seoul, but typically it's surrounded by the mountains, so the air is really fresh. I think that's a very interesting thing.
Good. And what kind of jobs do people in your town do normally?
I don't really know that because, we don't really talk to our neighbors these days, so I don't know anybody, so I don't know what they do for a living.
Oh, right. Why don't you talk to your neighbors?
Because they are, I am maybe unfriendly, or, we have all different jobs, and when I wake up, it's around like 11 a.m. or 12 p.m., so there's nobody in my building.
Right.
I've got nobody to talk to, actually.
Okay. And would you say it's a good place to live?
I think it is. It is. I told you that my house is in Seoul, but it's kind of at the border of Seoul and Gyeonggi province. So it's really convenient to go anywhere within Seoul or out of Seoul. So I think it is good to live there.
Excellent. We'll talk now a little bit about your accommodation. Mm-hmm. So tell me about the kind of accommodation you live in now.
I currently live in an apartment. Well, apartment with a lot of different houses.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you been living there?
It's been almost 7 to 8 years, I think.
Okay. And do you like living there?
Well, yeah. Well, I've been living in an apartment for all my life, but I have an experience of living in a house when I was in abroad. But I could feel that living in a house requires a lot of diligence. But living in an apartment, everything is done by the security guards or the office workers. Mm-hmm. So if everything, for example, if the elevator is broken down, they call the repairman and they just fix it right away. And they do all the gardenings for us. So I think living in an apartment is much more convenient.
Mm-hmm. And so ideally, what kind of accommodation would you like to live in?
I would prefer to live in an apartment because I'm not that diligent.
Okay, right. Good. Okay. So now we're going to move on to part two.
Okay.
In part two, I'm going to give you some notes or some paper so you can make some notes. You'll have a minute to prepare, and then you'll be able to answer. You've got 2 minutes to give your answer. So your question is, describe something you own which is very important to you. Okay, so I'm going to give you the notes. Put a minute on the clock. You have a minute to prepare from now.
Okay.
Okay, Bandi, your time is up. So I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock now. And now, could you describe something you own which is very important to you?
Okay. All right. Well, the most important thing that I have is my cell phone. My boyfriend gave it to me about 9 months ago, so I had it for about 9 months already. I do everything with this. I wake up with the alarm clock that my phone has been set, and whenever I go to work or any other places, it tells me which is the best way to go and how I can get there in the fastest way. So it's like a navigation for me as well. And I take a photos with it, so it's all my memory has in my phone. So the reason why it is very important to me is because of the 3 reasons. First of all, it keeps my relationship. If without my phone, I can't really do anything. So I use my phone and contact people, call them, chat with them, and keep the relationship. And second of all, it keeps my entertainment. When I get bored, I use my cell phone to play games, or I watch a YouTube and enjoy my free time. And also, third reason, it's like a master key to everything. Whenever I need to do some shopping, but if I don't have much time, so I can't really visit some shops, I just do it with my phone. And for example, what should I say? Oh, I once lost my phone about a week ago. I left it in my friend's car. It was such a chaos. I couldn't do anything because I didn't know anybody's phone number. I couldn't even call anybody. So after that incident or accident, I can say, I kind of feel that, wow, this is really, really important to me. I realized that.
Okay, good. Okay, so we'll move on to part 3. And this is kind of talking about important things and values of people. Okay. So firstly, we'll consider how people's values have changed. What kind of things give status to people in your country?
In Korea, I think owning a really expensive house and car gives status to people. Yeah.
Has it always been the same, or were different possessions thought of as valuable in the past?
I think it's similar, but there is a trend in each times. So I think the trend has changed a little bit. So owning a car, expensive car, or expensive house is same, but I think people tend to buy more fashion items with the brand name products has been, I think, regarded as a valuable thing these days.
Why do you think people need to show their status?
In the past, in Korea, people with a high status, they could show people with their hats or their ID that they are in a high level. But these days, everybody's same. So people need to show their status with their clothes, so they are not to be ignored by the people who they meet for the first time. I think that's why people need to show their status.
Good. So I'm going to move on to advertising now.
Okay.
Do you think advertising influences what people buy?
Yeah, I do think so. Well, especially for me, it influences me as well.
Do advertisements encourage people to buy things that they may not need?
Absolutely. For example, I was thinking about buying a makeup products, and I don't really need it, but I feel like it's gonna be better if I have it. Then after I see the advertisements, I just definitely buy it because I see that having this will develop my, daily lives.
Good. What are the differences in advertisements on television and those in magazines?
Well, the major differences between television and magazine is that magazine is just like a picture and a text, but television, you can see a lot of movements, you can hear things, you can watch things. So I think advertisement is going to be the same. If there is an advertisement on the magazine, you're just looking at the picture and the text, but if you're watching an advertisement on TV, you can actually hear, like for example, the chicken advertisements. You can actually hear the crunchy sounds, or you can actually feel that indirect experience, I can say. If there is an air conditioning advertisements on TV, you feel that you're already cool just watching the advertisements. I think that's the difference.
What sort of advertisements have a deeper impact on people?
I can say the advertisements with the really fancy songs will give a deeper impact on people, I think, because these days you can easily see so many people walking on their faces looking at their phones. They never look up the streets or the sky, so all they do is focus on their phone and keep walking. Or even in the house, you turn on the TV on, but you keep using your phone. But if you hear some kind of really fancy song or music, you get interested and you look up. So I think what I want to say is, if it has a really good song, it grabs people's attention. Yeah.
And finally, your final question today is advertising really necessary in modern society?
I think it is. Currently, in this COVID-19 situation, it's an untech society these days. So people don't really go outside and they don't really know what's new. They don't know what's being updated. So advertisement is one thing they can get to know what's going on around the world and what has been developing. So I think even in buying a product, because you don't go outside, you think this cup is the best thing in the world, but there are so many other cups out there. So I think advertisement is necessary.
Good, you're done. Well done.
You.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Very well done, Bandi. That was an excellent test. Now let's see what we can learn from her. In fluency and coherence, she was excellent. Her key strengths were very rare repetition. And although on a couple of occasions she hesitated, it was content-related hesitation. Remember, content-related hesitation is something that native speakers do as well, which is where they are searching for what to say, rather than searching for the right grammar or vocabulary, which is called language-related hesitation. It's important to know this because it is okay to pause as long as it's content-related. In lexical resource, I felt that there were no inaccuracies, but on the other hand, her range could be improved slightly. So I think it's good to think of lexical resource, our vocabulary, as two parts, which is the accuracy and the range. For me, I think she could have just used a few more topic-specific vocabulary, maybe a little bit higher level vocabulary in some of the sections. In grammatical range and accuracy, her positive point was a really wide range of grammatical structures. I felt that particularly her use of present perfect was excellent, and she had a few different patterns that she used so comfortably. However, there definitely were a few inaccuracies. It wasn't easy to hear, but on a couple of occasions she dropped the. For example, she said something is same. On 2 occasions she dropped the. She also used the phrase for whole my life, which it just needs a bit of adjusting, for my whole life. Finally, in pronunciation, I couldn't fault her. She's got a wonderful accent. It's actually a bit of a mix of Australian and US English. This is because she does have some experience in Australia, and here in Korea, a lot of people speak in the American accent. So I think there's kind of a mix. Most importantly, her English was effortless to understand. So easy to understand. I didn't have to strain at all. So that's why I gave her a band 9 in this section. And overall, she got a band 9 in this test. So a great job by Bandi there. It's not common to get a band 9 in the IELTS test, but with fluent delivery and lots of preparation, it is possible. Now, don't forget, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. I'd love you to become part of the IELTS Plus community. And if you can, let me know below. What's your IELTS score now? And what's your target score? I'd love to hear from you, and hopefully my channel can help you in the future.
thanks for watching today's video. I'll be back next week with more interesting lessons. So have a good week and see you very soon. Bye bye.